All right, bro. So I just had the craziest realization, right? And I'm not gonna even say like I came to this realization all by myself, but right now I'm at a gas station waiting on the bus to come pick me up. And now that I have officially left the trucking program, I realized that going back to the city, going back to Dallas is probably one of the best things I could have done. But also leaving and coming to Arkansas was also one of the best things I could have done because I wouldn't have realized that there's so much opportunity back home that I was taking for granted and that I just couldn't, that I wouldn't seeing. Right now, as I'm waiting, I'm reading, and I've read 10x is easier than 2x once, but now I'm reading it again, and I get to page 17 of 10x is easier than 2x, and they're talking about relationships, specifically how freedom, which is one of my biggest, which is probably my biggest goal, right? There's four types of freedoms, and one of the freedoms that it mentions is freedom of relationships, and how having quality relationships bring freedom that money can't buy. And with that being said, if I flip to page 17 right now, it discusses. Matter of fact, I'm just gonna read it word for word because it kind of it stuck with me for a minute, right? It says freedom of relationship facilitates freedom of purpose, which is another freedom. And it says because relationships open and close doors. So those who despise this reality don't understand the four freedoms, which are freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of relationship, and then freedom of purpose, right? So rather than argue with reality, learn the rules so you can shape it into your wishes. And then the last line says, expanding your freedom is the ultimate purpose of the entrepreneurship journey. And the reality is, there is no end to how much freedom you can have or create. And now going back to that second line where it says, freedom of relationships facilitates freedom of purpose, it made me think about everything on a deeper level, like my relationship with God, right? Bleeds onto every relationship that I have in my life. There's no way around it. And the only way to heaven is through Jesus. There's no amount of money, there's no amount of accomplishments, accolades, achievements, good deeds that you can do to get to heaven without a single relationship with Jesus. So that should be a principle. That's a relationship that can get you in a door, and that's a relationship that can get you kicked out of a door. Simply one relationship. So just think about millions of people in this world. If you have strong quality relationships with one God, right? Those that relationship with God is gonna bleed on to every area, not even just every area of your life, but every relationship in your life. And then if those relationships are maintained, are built, are genuine, they're gonna start putting your name in certain doors where you had no idea about or money just simply can't buy. And I'm not saying like just dry network or just try to be close to people just for what they can bring you. But like I said, that's where it has to become genuine in your relationship with God is going to potentially spark that genuine curiosity or that genuine wanting to help somebody out, to say the least. And I just really thought about that because with me coming to Arkansas, it was simply just trying to do it by myself. And I did it by myself, but I realized there's only so much I can do by myself. And even without God, I said this in one of my other videos, like everything comes full circle. I have a good idea. I try to do it by myself, and I realize I can't do it by myself. Um, so I come back to God, and the cycle just repeats. But it's like, why go through that? I was really just coming to Arkansas because, I got rid of my car. I want to stack some more cash, and just maybe start a really good business. But I'm starting to see it's bigger than that. I'm starting to see that normally when I talk to people or when I just listen to videos or even take notes, my mind naturally thinks in principles, naturally thinks in systems, and that's not something to overlook. And trucking alone, yes, I could have ran up maybe $70,000 my first year. Okay, cool. But what would I be missing out on? Like my dad said, at what cost? At the cost of relationships, at the cost of me not being able to see my family. Of course, there are sacrifices that got to be made, but that I feel like that would be an unnecessary sacrifice simply because I haven't got out of my own way. I haven't expanded my relationship with God to be able to put my pride and ego to the side and get closer to other people to serve them better, right? That way I can find what my purpose is. That way when I'm working on a business, it doesn't feel like work all the time. It feels more purposeful rather than just getting a sale that has nothing to do with my purpose. So like simply just networking, trying to look for things you can get out of people. Just be genuine, but that only comes from your relationship with God or just the person that you are. It doesn't mean to neglect character, because without your relationship with God, you can't have any character. And then without character, you can't have any genuine relationships. And without genuine relationships, you probably won't get far. Just think back to yourself how many breakthrough moments that you had simply through a relationship. This could be a relationship with family, a coworker, a close friend, anything. Think about how relationships have put you in certain doors that you couldn't have got in by yourself or with money alone. So that's what made me think like, okay, 10x is easier than 2x, but I have to reframe it differently. Now that I'm reading it again, reading it the second time around, I'm realizing it's not just grind. It's not just, learning and applying. Yes, those do add up, those do compound, but relationships multiply it, right? Relationships are fuel to the fire. So maybe in this season of my life, I got to stop trying to do everything by myself. I just sold my car, so I'll be going back to Dallas essentially with no car, about $10,000 and no car. But I don't want to get a cash car right now. I don't even want to finance a vehicle right now. But who's to say I'll do either one, or who's to say I won't do either one? So I'm not even trying to think of anything um, that long term. I'm just taking it day by day. But I'm understanding that all it takes is that one relationship or that one conversation to just completely change your perspective, or just completely put you out the door, or to just take you out of a situation where you felt like there was no way out. Like even with me going back to Dallas, I'm not going back to Dallas jobless. Like the relationship that I built with my supervisor, like I literally have a job after not being there for almost a week. But my character allowed me to put in a 2 weeks notice and do things the right way, because old me, I would have just left and then realized that this trucking endeavor wasn't for me, and then come back to Dallas and like, oh shit, now I gotta find a job. And now the job ends up being way across the city. Now I'm forced to get a vehicle simply because one, my relationship with God wasn't there, so my character wasn't established, and the character didn't allow me to do things the right way. So that's all I'm saying. Your season, specifically me, my season right now is about maintaining and building relationships and continue to work on my character and my personal development to not only serve what I want in my life, but just be in alignment with what God has for me. So that's pretty much it. That was on my heart while I was waiting for the bus. So your boy Cameron Mitchell is out. I'm so happy, bro. I feel like I'm starting to learn at a faster rate because I'm actually applying. I'm out here in Arkansas, in Bryant, Arkansas. What? Why am I here? Like it's crazy, but like sometimes you just got to take those steps, because just trying to think things through. Yeah, it may sound good on paper, it may sound good theoretically, but you'll never know if that's for you until you actually do it for real and get to experience it from your perspective in real time. But that's all I got to say. Like, comment, subscribe, and we on a real journey, bro. We are on a real journey. Talk to y'all later.